live action Barbie movie coming out earlier this year, I have been seeing a lot of discussion around the original animated movie series that was released in the early 2000s, many accrediting the 2001 Barbie and the Nutcracker to be the first ever Barbie movie, with the tagline literally stating Barbie in her first feature film, or Barbie in her first film. I am here to be annoying and say technically that's not true. Was it her first 3D film debut? Yes. But Barbie has lived in the animated sphere for well over 30 years at this point. This being in her two-part TV special, Barbie and the Rockers, Out of This World, and Barbie and the Sensations, Rockin' Back to Earth. Before anybody comes to me and says,
actually it's a TV special, it's not actually a movie.
It's a movie in my eyes. Hello everybody, my name is Brooklyn, otherwise known as the Dramatic Otaku, and welcome to my video essay on a film that I actually grew up on, Barbie and the Rockstars, Out of This World, as well as Barbie and the Sensations, Rockin' Back to Earth. This is a VHS that I grew up on. I think that the second VHS, which is the Sensations tape, is somewhere in my shed.
I'll find you one day.
These are the 1987 television specials and the first animated appearance, or first feature animated appearance, of our titular Barbie, everybody's favorite. And the reason why I am making this video is because I almost never see anybody talk about these films. The dolls, sure. The films, nothing. I hear nothing from people in my generation talking about this film. And genuinely, I'm not sure how many people born after the year 2000 know about these films' existence. Call me a zoomer, which is so cringe to say. Every time, every Barbie tier list video or Barbie movie tier list video I see, when they neglect to include these films in their list, I tend to feel like I'm the only one in the universe who knows that these films exist, which with something as massive as Barbie is not likely, and especially seeing as in many years since, multiple times, the Rockers dolls have been re-released. Ew!
What an interesting artifact.
And there's also the fact that in these tier list videos, I never see my scene brought up, so it's probably just a very specific the 2000s dolls thing. This suspicion that the movie being more well known than I thought is sort of solidified in the fact that both films, when you search them up on YouTube, because they're on YouTube, have well over 15,000 views. But before we jump into the movie, my review of it, and a little bit on the history and backstory of the doll, I want to give you guys a bit of context about my life and my connection to Barbie, because I have already made a video on Barbie, and the fact that I am creating this video on Barbie tells you something about my fucking childhood. Now, you may be wondering how I've come to know about this film specifically, being someone who is basically the same age as the Barbie and the Nutcracker film, as well as the entirety of the Bratz doll line. Well, that would be because I have a mother who grew up in the 70s and 80s and only was slightly older than the intended age range for this film when it came out. And as her daughter, who grew up in the early 2000s, I was there watching VHS tapes alongside DVDs, having all the My Scene movies on both VHS and DVD when they came out, as well as High Five and The Wiggles. I was also binging a lot of VHSs from back in the day that my mum would used to watch, and thus you had a 7-year-old me sitting there watching HR Pufnstuf, My Scene, High Five, and Calamity Jane all in the same sitting. It is hard to believe that I didn't realize I was gay until I was 18. To put it simply, that is to say that I was watching the exact same media my mum would watch when growing up, as she kept a majority of her VHS tapes from when she was growing up, and if it wasn't her, it was my grandma, and either way, I got my hands on this VHS tape right here. And I am missing the other one. It is somewhere in my shed. But not only that, My mum was a major Barbie collector, having some of them still in her boxes and some of them out and about. None of these are hers except for that one. But that being said, she was a major Barbie collector, only really stopping around the time that I was born. But safe to say, I grew up with plenty of Barbies that had previously been my mum's that she had opened to display. Much like this Hollywood Nails Barbie, who I have since decided to call Phoebe because she reminds me of Phoebe in one episode of Friends. I even mentioned in one of my cosplay videos that my mum really knew what to do with synthetic hair because she used to upkeep so much of these goddamn Barbie dolls' hairs growing up as well as well into her 20s and especially when I fucking came along. But my last sort of piece of history about me with Barbie is that my first Barbie was this 2001 birthday Barbie, which was so hard to fucking find because I have both the 2001 and 2002 birthday Barbie doll, and I had to try and find this doll based on a pink box in photos from my first birthday. Do you know how hard it is to find a pink box Barbie in the era of pink box Barbies? Some of my favorites growing up were the ballerina dolls, such as this Teresa doll and this my first ballerina Barbie, as well as the cute, adorable, and highly collectible Kelly dolls, Kelly and her friends, which, might I add, Mattel. Why did you discontinue this line? These are my favorite fucking dolls. Look how cute these little bitches are. Why did you change these out for Chelsea? I want my Kelly dolls back, Mattel. Give me back my fucking Kelly dolls. As well as some of the brand tie-in dolls, such as I've got a SpongeBob doll back there for some reason, and the very limited collection of the early 2000s movie tie-in dolls, which I do have the Nutcracker doll there, as well as the third Fairytopia film doll, and these wonderfully adorable Island Princess movie Kelly dolls. Mattel, give me my fucking Kelly doll. So having had mentioned the Barbie movies, let's get back to the topic at hand. The Barbie and the Rockstars and Barbie and the Sensations. To begin, I am going to be flicking between saying Barbie and the Rockstars and Barbie and the Rockers, just because for regionality, in the US, Barbie and the Rockers were called Barbie and the Rockers, such as the dolls, but the copy that I have, I believe, is from the UK, and in the UK they were called Barbie and the Rockstars, and I only say that because I don't think these were ever released in Australia, or at least the VHS wasn't, so I have a copy of the European version, whereas I don't have a copy of the American versions, thus I will be switching between Rockstars and Rockers. Moving on. Seeing as this is about the two films, let's get into Barbie and the Rockstars, and I will be describing these two films as separate entities because they are packaged as two separate films but together. First, we are going to start with Barbie and the Rockers, Out of This World. The film opens with Barbie being the most famous person on Earth and going on the most well-received world tour across the planet that any person ever has done. Becoming an ambassador for world peace, the first ambassador for world peace, to celebrate such a successful tour. Barbie and the Rockers, Dee Dee, Diva, Dana and Derek, as well as Ken, go to a Sky Tower restaurant and sing about being best friends, where they walk backwards in the sky, T-posing, I mean dance the night away. They party all night.
Can't believe it! We danced all night!
We then learn that Barbie gets a ball in her name. Just Barbie, not the rest of the Rockers, because she is the first ambassador for world peace. We then have a little makeover scene, and then we're at the ball, where only Ken gets to go, because he's with Barbie. None of the other Rockers. Just Ken. 'Cause I'm just Ken. At this ball, Barbie announces what's next for the Rockers, and without any consultation of the actual band itself, and she announces that they'll be the first people to perform in outer space.
Outer space?
Outer space?
I was not kidding when I said that they didn't know. And they really don't get a say in whether they want to go or whether they don't, they sort of just go along with it. The next scene is Barbie and the Rockers going into a montage of preparing for space. They blast off in a pink ship going into space, where we are then taken into yet another musical segment where they go into space, and it seems like they're blasting through multiple galaxies, but they're really just going to a space station that is circling Earth called Interstar. After landing at Interstar, they then go into another montage, again with music playing over it, of Barbie, Dee Dee, Diva, and Dana all getting ready for their concert, which, can I just say, unironically, I am obsessed with Barbie's earrings in this show. I don't know why, it's just hypnotizing. But moving on, their concert goes on without a hitch, and the space station opens up into a flower. They then bust into song, and it ends mid-concert. That's the end of the special. Continuing quite literally where we just left off, literally at the same concert, pretty much within the same song, they start to go home on their rocket, the pink rocket, back to Earth. And in trying to express how they feel, they can't.
It's hard to express.
Except in music.
Their music causes a wormhole of which none of them can see, and it transports them back to Earth of the past to 1959, obviously the year the first Barbie was released. The first indication that Barbie and the gang are not in the 80s is Barbie's chat to ground control.
Barbie to ground control. Come in, please.
Ground control? Hey, I like that. What are you, Sky Patrol?
Do you give permission to land?
Why, sure. And bring in them little green Martians with you, would you?
He's just so casual about it. A random UFO starts talking to you, and your response is, hey, that sounds pretty cool. Come on in and land. Upon Barbie and the Rockets landing, we see a small child in a car, and the child is speaking some funky shit.
Wowee! A flying saucer! Neato Kino!
Barbie then meets said child's father, who happens to be an aviation scientist working on space travel, and it becomes apparent that Barbie has figured out time travel. Time for a fashion montage. Barbie and the Rockers suddenly become tourists of the 50s and are just allowed to buy a pink convertible and all of these clothes and just have a small child with them without their father. Also, her name is Kim, and she has no friends except for Barbie. They go to a classic 50s diner, and Barbie casually just has a vinyl of her songs.
You like to bop?
And yet another dance scene occurs. This section is probably one of the funniest portions of the entire film or specials, as in the nearly 40 years since this movie has been released, it's just, in hindsight, really funny to think of what people in the 80s thought of the 50s and how people acted in the 50s, and how people in the 50s would have reacted so weirdly as to things happening in the 80s.
Want a frozen yogurt, Kim?
A frozen what?
Also, why does Barbie have a vinyl of herself? She's playing 80s songs in the 50s, as if that wouldn't make people feel weird. Even Back to the Future plays with this idea of Marty playing a song from his time in the 50s, or the 60s, whatever. After this little diner concert, Barbie and the Rockers become world famous again? Then Barbie opens for a space center. Oh yeah, and Barbie is singing at Cape Canaveral.
Here to Cape Canaveral.
Barbie singing at Cape Canaveral! Barbie singing at Cape Canaveral! Barbie singing at Cape Canaveral!
Then, at this concert, without any struggle, Kim's dad, the scientist, suddenly knows what the fuck to do and just casually has a gigantic machine. But Barbie and the Rockers don't leave before giving Kim a locket, saying that she is loved, and promptly fucking off back to space. Very conveniently, in time for their reunion concert back in 1987. At this concert, we actually get to see Kim as an adult, with her daughter, And the film ends with Kim saying,
Barbie's everybody's favorite for all time.
Now, I am very, very well known for my reviews on this channel, so we'll be doing a small review on the film before we continue about the actual history of the film. This movie really isn't a movie, obviously. It is definitely an advertisement and really fell as a pilot for any TV show, but also left nothing up for interpretation for what a series could potentially hold for Barbie and the Rockers, thus justifying it also probably being classified as a one-shot film for Barbie. To begin, instantly, both episodes refer to themselves as music video features, which isn't an understatement because literally every 2 minutes, a new song plays, and not even the full song will play. If it's not a new song, it is a reprise of the Barbie and the Rockers theme. In the first 8 minutes of the first episode, we get a Rockers concert, which gives us 2 songs, a totally rad dance party, and then Barbie and Ken getting ready for the ball. That is four-ish songs in the first 8 minutes of the 25-minute episode. Now, that's not to say I didn't like some of the covers, as most of the songs in this film are covers of other songs, such as Here Comes My Baby by the Tremoles originally. That one is probably one of my favorites, and I would literally kill for a good quality version of that cover. Here comes my baby. Then my second favorite probably is Do You Believe in Magic by Loving Spoonful. They were super cute and boppy. Unfortunately, every single song is never really a full song, save Here Comes My Baby. And if it was 1 or 2 songs, it wouldn't be that noticeable. But when it is every single fucking song, it is very noticeable. Also, just want to make a little note here that musically, from the first episode or film, the groove of this one particular transition, probably the most 80s thing I've ever fucking heard. And just hearing that with the visuals just for some reason threw me through a fucking loop. But in terms of the audio, the music fading out on every song and not being a full song isn't the only audio inconsistency in this film, and potentially this one is more noticeable. We tend to get a lot of audio loops of the same 1 to 2 second clips of the film.
Thank you! Thank you! Thank you!
Which is just really noticeable, and I get a lot of 80s media did this, but just with all the other audio inconsistencies, this was just very noticeable. Then, nostalgia-wise for me, for some reason the scene where Barbie's earrings are like shown is really nostalgic to me, and I just remember it very strongly for some reason. Like, I latched onto that, as well as the scene where Kim is eating a sundae at the diner. For some reason, it is such an inconsequential part of the plot, but that stuck so hard into my mind as a kid, and I don't know why it was those 2 parts in particular. Now, gonna go into some bullet round critiques. So first of all, the first ambassadors for world peace.
Today is the first day of world peace.
This is quite literally what they satirized at the start of the Barbie movie from this year. What the 2023 Barbie movie satirizes is what Mattel tried to push in the 80s. And this just like absolutely stunned me that Mattel did this, and did it in sincerity in a film. Like, in sincerity did it, and then it was satirized. I get that it was the 80s, and that this was probably Barbie's version of Live Aid, or, as we're gonna talk about later, Barbie's version of doing a charity, because in the competitor show that I'm going to fucking talk about, they predominantly did charity stuff. This is just an out of this world fucking concept. Just Barbie being the most popular person on Earth and creating world peace is literally the parody of the 2023 film, and Barbie being everybody's favorite. So this film is like just Barbie. All of the rest of the rockers are sort of just thrown to the dogs as like, they're just backup for her. She's the main character, they're just there. They're like set dressings, that's it. In this space concert, there's literally a shot where they are erased from the stage and it leaves just Barbie, which is actually really sad because I unironically loved Derek in this. Seeing as much as like the runtime is mostly music for these two specials, the dialogue in turn is mostly just one-liners, especially if it's dialogue that comes from the rockers or from Ken, just one-liners from them, as Barbie is mostly the one who talks in this film. And it's also why I don't want to put too much of my favorite bits of this film in my video, because then I would just be giving you guys the good bits and cutting out all the music of this film. But as I said, all the rockers are just one-liners, and for some reason, the way that Derek talks is so fucking funny to me.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Just something about the way that he's emoted. Also, if this had been picked up, Derek clearly was supposed to be a love rival for Ken. And I say this because there's a total of one scene where Barbie gives Derek affection and not Ken. And honestly, I would have been here for it. And in general, I really liked the Kens, I guess, of this series. Specifically in the Sensations film, they're just so goofy and funny, it's really kind of fun. But unfortunately overall, this film really doesn't give film or two-part TV special pilot, it gives advertisement. And strictly advertisement, which is sad because there is a lot that could have been done, as evident by the fact that Barbie 15 years later would come back in her first feature film, Barbie and the Nutcracker. Also, hot is said so much in this film. So now that we've gotten into the nitty-gritty of the plot and my opinions on the plot of the film, let's get into the actual backstory of what Barbie and the Rockers in film form was, as well as some history on the actual dolls itself, because I guess I kind of have to fucking talk about the dolls because it's Mattel. Just a disclaimer on the actual production side of the film, I really tried looking and there was not much on the actual film side, and seeing as this video is about the films, there's not going to be a whole lot there. So to talk about these two specials, I'm going to kind of have to talk about them together, because while they were aired in syndication as a 1-hour special, they were only later released as two separate parts on two separate VHSs by High Tops Video as like two separate entities. Also because in some regions they were sold on one tape instead of two tapes. Anyway, the specials were the creation of DIC or Dick Entertainment with Mattel and partially produced by Saban Productions. Yes, later then Saban Entertainment. Yes, the same Saban of Power Rangers, Saban Moon, and X-Men fame. That being said, the company heading the production and the one who actually partnered with Mattel was DIC Entertainment. As mentioned, the specials aired in syndication, basically meaning the rights were given to more than one network to air at the same time, so there wasn't one specific network that originally aired the film, thus no exact date on the first airing, and meaning the time period for the film's release was just fall 1987. But it was aired as a 1-hour special, then later being released, as I said, split onto VHS tapes as Barbie and the Rockstars and Barbie and the Sensations. However, the name Sensations never actually appears within the film itself, and was something that was just added to the box art to sell with the accompanying dolls. Then, when researching, one of my biggest fucking questions on the production side was why was it split into two specials when it literally could have just been one. Other than the fact that it was a TV pilot, you still could have put the TV pilot as one big long 1-hour special. So I did try to go and find the answer to this question, even going to the High Top wiki page to see if there was a distribution reason, which the only article I could reference and the only reference I could find was by Variety, of which I had wanted to access the archives of, but I would need to pay an exorbitant fucking price for one article that for all I know could have been this big. Even if I had wanted to access the article, I couldn't. So any information as to potentially why this movie was in 2 parts in the first place is locked behind a paywall. Like, I get it was a pilot, but pilots can be longer than 20 minutes. So we are just going to chalk it up to financial gain and overseas distribution, because that's always seems to be the reason, other than the fact that it was a pilot for a TV show. The purpose of these specials was that they were supposed to be a pilot for a potential Barbie cartoon series that was a Thursday through Sunday series, with the daily episodes being produced by DIC Entertainment. This, however, never came to fruition as negotiations between Mattel and Dick eventually fell through. According to the speculation via Hal Erickson, the Rockers project eventually emerged with a whole new set of characters and the sponsorship of Hasbro as Maxie's World in 1988. But, of course, this isn't the only Hasbro line that has come toe-to-toe with Barbie and specifically the Rockers. Of course, we can't talk about Barbie and the Rockers and their failed TV pilot without talking about Jem was Hasbro's rocker, and her insane popularity threatened the popularity of Barbie. If Jem was going to enter Barbie's turf, Barbie was going to enter Jem's, the world of television. Most depictions of this battle I usually see is in the form of the doll lines fighting, which Jem lost, but I rarely see the TV show versus the music video specials be talked about. And well, this video is about those specials. The format of Jem in layman's terms was the main plot of the holograms versus the misfits and the corrupt businessman versus Jerica, the new CEO of a music corp that sponsors an orphanage. The biggest part of this TV show being that they incorporated full-length music videos into each and every episodes. 3 in each episode, 1 misfit song, and 2 Jem and hologram songs, each song being roughly a minute in length or a minute and a half. The series was insanely successful and touched on a myriad of real-world issues outside of the main plot of the actual show itself, as many cartoons of that time did and still do, as Jem has a focus on the orphan girls from Starlight House and connecting to them, but will veer out to help other kids throughout the duration of the show's run. Within 4 months of Jem and the Holograms releasing, the dolls hit the shelves. Now, my question to you, which came first, the Rockers or the Holograms? This is a heated debate that is surrounded in corporate mystery, but the fact that both the bands of the Rockers and the Holograms are so similar, from the races of all of the band members, the number of members, and the MTV-styled theme of both lines, it's easy to tell that one brand caught wind of the other creating these dolls and decided to take action for some kind of doll competition, despite the fact that both of them state that the popularity of MTV and rock and roll is what drove them to make a rockin' doll. Chronologically, Jem was the one that came first, Barbie following suit, but still Mattel denies the fact that Jem had anything to do with Barbie's bold new style change, and as well as the accompanying TV plot or TV pilot.
Sure, Jan.
Now, knowing the Barbie TV pilot and my description of it, you do see a lot of similarities of Barbie trying to be Jem in her own special Barbie way. From the motifs found in the movie's openings as well as Jem's TV opening, to the way that there are multiple songs in these specials. But the thing that made Jem stand out as compared to Barbie was her original plots and her original music that don't fucking fade into obscurity halfway through the fucking show. Granted, these are just motifs, themes, and songs, but the plots are very different if you compare the two series. But that earring thing that I mentioned earlier that Barbie does, so a fucking dig it, Gem. So a dig it, Gem. Gem unfortunately was cancelled in 1988, in the end losing to Barbie. Then of course, having mentioned the dolls, of course I can't talk about the film without referencing the doll side, as Mattel being a doll company or a toy company, the same with Hasbro. The whole reason for the film's production in the first place was to sell more dolls, and as previously mentioned, assumedly to compete with the Gem dolls. Either way, we're going to be talking about the Barbie doll lines that connect to the film in a reverse way, because there is significantly less information about the Sensations as compared to the Rockers doll line, as well as the fact that the Sensations really felt like an afterthought by Mattel. The Sensations doll line came after the specials in 1987 or 1988, roughly around those two times, and consisted of Barbie, Diva, Dana, and Dee Dee, which of note apparently they were also Barbie, Bopsy, Belinda, and Becky, not including the male dolls, again, regional naming thing. And each doll posed as if they were dancing. Though with the two videos I found on actual reviews of the dolls, it's not said if it was possible that they were movable or not. Then of course, to actually complete the line was an actual cassette tape of the Sensations songs being released in 1988. The Sensations dolls were clearly nowhere near as iconic as the Rockers dolls, however, as Barbie and the Rockers had been released on more than one occasion. Not only that, but in 2010, Mattel released a reunion doll for collectors of both Barbie and Belinda, or Barbie and Dee Dee. Both dolls being designed after the doll artists known as Needy Momo. So as previously mentioned, we now move on to the Barbie and the Rockers dolls. The Rockers dolls line was copyrighted in 1985, then being released in 1986, the year just before the movie's release. The original Rockers were stagnant dolls, pretty much along the same lines as the original Barbie dolls, just with an 80s flair, the outfits being the ones featured in the film the next year. The line included Barbie, Diva, Dana, Dee Dee, and Derek. This is the original line that people had wondered if Barbie was competing with Jen, as Barbie's outfits had bared an odd resemblance to Gem's typical style. And in early 1986, rumors had floated around about Barbie making it to TV screens, once again battling for spotlight with Gem. As Gem had entered the doll market with Barbie, Gem had given Barbie a run for her money. The second doll line of the Rockers, or the second edition Rockers, which is this doll right here, were tie-ins with the film itself, being released in 1987, the same year as the films had released. These outfits being at the end of the Out of This World special, being their concert outfits featured in the first special. What made them different to the first line was the fact that they were dolls that danced with real dancing actions, featuring all the previous characters from the first line, but this one also including Ken. In the decades following the initial release, as I mentioned, the Rockers line continued to be re-released or reproduced in the 2000s. 2009 saw the re-release of the Barbie Rockers doll for the 50th anniversary, my favourite series, which saw many classic Barbies be reproduced. 2009 also had many other Barbie collaborations that featured the Rockers likeness, such as this Barbie line of peekaboo petites, which I unlocked a memory with these fucks. I used to have these, not the Barbie ones, but I used to have these and never knew what the fuck they were called. I already mentioned the 2010 reunion dolls, so skipping to 2017, and yes, I know the Rockers likeness was also used for non-doll products in 2010, but then again, we're not talking about non-doll things, we're talking about dolls. So 2017 saw the Rockers line get renewed with the tagline, "Young music lovers can go from rehearsal to the stage and be a star in their own stories," because with Barbie, You Can Be Anything, essentially rebranding the Rockers away from their original style and history with competition of Gem and adapting it now to modern young children. This rebrand had the colours of the Rockers dolls but none of the heart, as they were distinctly using the visual aesthetics of the 80s and none of the fashions. Very 2017 fashion on these dolls. This line included Barbie, a couple dolls without any names, a concert stage doll, and a fashion doll, as well as Chelsea and Chelsea's friends, and a Chelsea-sized concert fun doll. And the quality and care for these dolls really shows in these rebrands. So the Rockers came and went, and came again and went again. But this video is obviously about the films, and it is hard not to say Barbie films without fucking picturing Bibble. So, upon answering as to why the Rockers films were made, clearly being a jab against Gem, I suddenly got the question as to why on earth did Barbie not see the big screen again until 15 years later in 2001 with Barbie and the Nutcracker.
And this may shock you, it wasn't the competitor of the Bratz, because the Bratz movies didn't come out for a couple of years after first Barbie movies release, as in like the Nutcracker. No, in fact, the whole reason the Barbie movies were released was a dual marketing plan. One would be to take advantage of the home or direct-to-video market that was starting to boom around the early 2000s, as well as like the start of use of CGI to get on top of that market as well, to make kids more excited to watch these films, as well as the fact that if Mattel made movies, they could also make dolls that fit into those movies. Really, it had nothing to do with the doll market at that point and any competitors. It had to do with actually the digital market, entertainment side. And so in 2001, or Mattel should I say, I believe it was they, in the early 2000s, created a animation studio or enlisted the help of an animation studio for these Barbie movies. For the first one, they enlisted the help of, I think, the New York Ballet, and thus they made the first film. That answered my question really quickly, because it's so easy to find information on the 2000s Barbie films. Yeah, so it all started off basically because it was popular in the home media digital market, which was kind of disappointing. But then it became about beating the Bratz.
And then, of course, to compete with Barbie was the Bratz. But I'm not gonna get into the Bratz films. I have another video idea I have for the Bratz. We're not talking about them. So I'm just gonna end this video here. Oh my god. This is killing me. Whoa. Fuck.
All in all, the point of this video was to share with the world a piece of Barbie media that I don't get to see talked about enough. A simple piece of media from a franchise that both me and my mum grew up with, and it's not just me and my mum, it's almost every woman in my family. A piece of media that I remember fondly, if not a little fuzzily, because rewinding a VHS tape was a pain to do, but pressing play on a DVD player was continuously very easy. And the whole inspiration for this video coming around was because of the new Barbie movie. I don't know how, but the hype the film has created and the impact of the film made me feel nostalgic, not only for my own childhood with these dolls, but for my mum's, my aunts, and also my cousins, as well as many strangers that I see on TikTok. We all have some kind of connection to these dolls, and hearing such familiar experiences come out of the mouths of a complete stranger is weirdly connective. So I wanted to share my own.
What? Wait a second. This is the one I used to play with as a kid. Oh, so many more Barbies. Oh, shit. Of course she got a Dana.
When I was 6, I broke my arm. I was in prep and slipped off of a set of monkey bars on a rainy day. I broke the bone in my forearm just under the joint of my elbow, so I needed 2 surgeries. One to put in a bar or the screw so it healed properly, and want to take it out again. I distinctly remember being so nervous, so I brought with me my favourite Barbie, which was one of my first ballerina Barbies. She had a broken joint in her hip, making one of her legs swing around loosely. She was broken, so she was just like me. I remember picking out carefully an outfit for her, and I chose a sheer dress with lots of sparkles. I chose that one because it reminded me of a very, very fashionable hospital gown, so that we could both get surgery and be fixed. I still have her today, and her leg is still broken, but she's perfect. I don't think I'd ever get her fixed because she's so precious to me. It's memories like this and the bond me and my mum have over these dolls that made me wonder a few things about my mum's connection to them. Originally, I had intended to interview her on just the films itself, but soon realised I had a lot more to ask my mum about her memories with Barbie, why she started collecting them in the first place, and what made her stop.
Hi, my name is Dana, and I got my first Barbie doll when I was probably 5 or 6. The first Barbie that I got that was my Barbie was Kissing Barbie, and which actually had lipstick and it kisses. You press a button, it kisses, and I think that might actually be about 1980, but I'm not 100% sure. However, before that I was playing with my sister's Barbie doll, so I've had Barbie dolls around me since I was probably about 2, and I didn't start actually collecting until I was 22. When I was 22, I was given a birthday Barbie from my boyfriend at the time, who is now my ex-husband, and basically that started a tidal wave or a tsunami of collecting for about the next, I'd say, 8 years. And then when I started to have kids, I stopped because there was priorities changed. I was part of the official Australian Collectors Club. I never attended any functions or anything. It was more because at the time I was sort of interested to know what Barbies were worth, and there was something that I wanted because it was something to do with Kingfisher Books, because Kingfisher Books, I think, supplied a lot of the Barbie books, and that was kind of what, there was something that I kind of wanted. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but that was actually why I ended up becoming part of the Collectors Club. But I sort of, again, when I stopped collecting, I sort of let that go. The Rockers doll I actually bought when I was collecting. I think where did I find it? I could have found it on eBay, because I think eBay had started by the time I was sort of, I think it was in its infancy, but I think it had started by the time I was 28. And there was nothing that I kept in a box. However, my Barbies were gold, so I really, really looked after them really well, to the point where the 3 Barbies that I had were given to me as a child, I still have. They are still got all their hair is still pristine. I used to have a box where I used to wrap them in tissue paper, and I really looked after my Barbie dolls.
Which is a statement, as behind you on your left side, I've put the only Barbies that are the most destroyed are my ones.
Yes.
And they're the comparison, because they're the exact same dolls. I've done pretty good with the fashion line doll. Because that one, the one sitting down is mine.
This is mine.
Yeah, the one that's sitting down is mine, and the one that's standing is yours.
This one and this one as well.
Those are the only 2 that I pulled out, because all the other ones have either been stripped naked, like the what's called 60s looking ones behind you. Big sentiment that my ones are destroyed, and then you look at the exact same ones that were yours.
Well, as we do have an image of you as a 1-year-old receiving your very first Barbie doll, that I think is the difference. And times are different now, so I think by the time you grew out of Barbies, you had about 20, whereas I had 3. And as I said, I was the youngest of 5 kids. They were my prized possession, and even I think I still was playing with them when I was about 13, quietly, because by that stage I was into boys and all that sort of stuff. But even when I went through that stage, they were stored so pristinely. And I think that's the difference because, you know, if you're giving something when you're 1, and I didn't really care because they were pink box, and I'm talking like these guys over here are probably $8 Barbies.
I was going to bring up later that you've also got 3 of those dolls.
This pink box one, these ones are probably about $15, $20, I think at the time. But these ones, which you're talking about stripped naked, they're about $9 Barbies. So me, I wasn't stressed about it. So I guess if I was a bit more, oh my God, do not, then you might have been a little bit more protective of them. But I also knew that if I needed to, that I could fix them, so I wasn't too worried about it.
So when collecting Barbies, because clearly you did open some and they've like been kept in nearly pristine condition, which ones did you like choose to open versus which ones you chose to keep in box?
I think a lot of it had to do with timing. So when I first started collecting, I was truly excited to actually get the doll, and I wanted to open it because it's kind of like, this is cool. Strangely enough though, I kept the boxes, but I actually cut them open so I could store them flat. So somewhere in amongst the shed, there could still be the boxes of my original, of the Barbies that I used to collect, even the ones that came out of the box, because it was sort of, it wasn't practical to keep the boxes as they were because we didn't live in a huge house or anything like that. So it was sort of got to the point where all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, well this is a bit more of an investment. Like, you know, when you're looking at Escada, Happy Holidays ones where you invest a bit more money, you sort of think, oh, do I really want to pull it? Well, you really want to pull it out of the box, but you sort of, it's like, if I pull it out of the box, then it's going to lose its value. And part of it, you know, part of doll collecting, especially when you get up to the 300 or 400, like I've got, it then becomes more about, a little bit about an investment, not just the joy of having the dolls surrounding you in a room. So I guess towards the end of my collecting, it was kind of like, well now, you know, I've invested a lot of money, so I had to rethink what I was going to do. You know, what I was going to do when I got, you know, and you'll, as Brooklyn pointed out, I have 3 of this particular doll. One was for Brooklyn, I think. Yeah. One was this one, and I had another one that was out of the box that is in my out of box ones. And the reason would have been so that I had one in a box, one I could play with, and one for Brooklyn. So that's why, you know, sometimes I've got multiple, or these ones, like if I wanted to do something special, like for my wedding, I created flower baskets with a Barbie doll for my flower girls, and I would buy cheaper Barbies and then rejig them and stuff like that. So that was a bit of fun.
Was there ever like a Barbie that you really, really wanted but never actually got?
Oh, one of the Bob Mackie ones. So Bob Mackie used to bring out a doll sort of, you know, once a year or something, and I think he bought out, in my time, I think there was about 4 or 5, but they were like $300, $400. So I never got one, but they were so beautifully beaded and stuff, and like my other passion from Barbies is beading, so it was like joined together. But yeah, the Bob Mackie ones I would look at and I'd go, can I justify it? Can I justify it? No, I can't. So I never got one, and I would have loved one. And you know, you sort of look at it and you go, you know, you're paying for the name Bob Mackie rather than the doll sort of thing. So yeah, that's probably the main one. That's the one that springs to mind like that. So
when I was born, were you ever like excited to like give me any dolls, or
oh, hell yes,
share this passion like with me or something along those lines?
100%. That's why you ended up with 20 or 30 Barbie dolls, because it was like, oh yeah, I can get it for Brooklyn. So yeah, there was no, yes, 100%. And even like when I've started saying that I'm going to start selling the dolls, which I am. You know, it was awesome that you were like, oh no, can I have this one and can I have this one and stuff like that, because it means that my passion sort of continues, and yeah, it's good.
My next one is on Kelly dolls. This is not so much like a question, but a thread throughout this video is I curse out Mattel for discontinuing the Kelly doll for Chelsea dolls.
Did they discontinue Kelly?
Yeah. So the Kellys, so you a couple years ago, because I remember like asking about all the Kelly dolls that I got.
Yeah.
And you went out and bought me what you thought was a Kelly doll. It was actually a Chelsea.
Oh. I bought you a huge Kelly doll, like a big Kelly doll. I loved that Kelly doll.
Oh, is that what that doll was?
Yes.
Oh, I just thought it was a random baby doll.
No, it was a giant Kelly doll. It was awesome.
Well, I was wondering if you would like want to talk about the about you getting me Kellys, because I like.
So the Kelly dolls, what I used to do is we'd go to the shop, and I can't help myself. I like to spoil my kids, and I always have. So I would buy you a Kelly doll, because the Kelly dolls were like $6 or $7. So instead of buying you a Barbie, I'd buy you a Kelly, because it worked because you were a little kid. So. So yeah, and then I went through a stage where I got all the different coloured hair ones and all this sort of stuff. So yeah.
But yeah, so they discontinued Kelly in store. And talking about Barbie and her friends, so I didn't actually have a proper Ken doll. I had 3 male dolls. One was a Steven doll. One was, I think his name's Brian, which is the My Scene doll right next to you, and one was an Action Man. So
yeah, well, that's because when I was growing up, Ken wasn't huge. It was actually quite hard to buy Ken, from memory. Like, yeah, it wasn't really as big as he is now. And I had a brother, the Lone Ranger, and G.I. Joe. So G.I. Joe and the Lone Ranger became Barbie's boyfriends, rather than, because I guess Ken was sort of a boy doll, so, you know, stereotypical 70s family of boys are, you know, girls have girl dolls and boys have boy dolls sort of thing. So, yeah, so I didn't need Ken. So you also had brothers who had Action Men. So I think the Action Man was probably, I don't know, it might have been purchased for your brother, I'm not sure. But that's probably where that came from. Or it was on sale. But Ken wasn't sort of like it is now, where there's a lot more boy-girl ratio. This Ken, which I don't know where the body is. I'm assuming it's in amongst the rest of my dolls. And we are investigating my son as a serial killer. And I dropped Ken's head. Poor Ken just rolled across the floor. He is actually from like late 70s, early 80s, but I actually bought him on eBay. So I got him a lot later, and he came with a nice velvet suit.
And for the last however many years, he's been tormenting a box of Kelly dolls.
With a head, yeah. So, you know, and this doll, this one here that's yours, was actually Brooklyn's little brother who did that.
Maybe, we don't know who did that yet.
Yes, well, he's claimed this one, so he made him bald. So anyway, yeah, that's the main reason that I didn't really have any Kens, and that's why you didn't really have any Kens either, because it just wasn't as big as what Ken and Barbie are now.
Well, I did a bad thing. So, I've still got more questions about, like, the Rockers movie.
Yeah.
But I did a bad thing. So, obviously, I've gone and bought you the Barbie clothes. But before I bought you the Barbie clothes, before you even knew there were Barbie clothes that existed.
Yes.
When I
Barbie
was like
clothes.
asking you to be in this video,
Yes.
I went to Kmart, and as you know, I bought myself a Monster High doll.
Yes.
Well, I may or may not have bought you as a ex-Barbie collector, should I say, a Barbie doll from the Barbie movie.
Oh, good Lord.
Unfortunately, they didn't have
I
Margot
got
Robbie.
Ken. Oh, good lord.
So, they didn't have the Margot Robbie doll.
Yes.
Because obviously she's sold out and nobody wants Ken.
Ken.
So I thought that would be funny to
That
like,
is
buy
funny.
Margot.
Thank you. I'll give you a hug and kiss later.
Yes.
Oh, good lord.
But now you have Ken.
Now I have Ken. Well, yeah, Ken wasn't as prevalent as you sort of think. So yeah.
Which Barbie of your like entire collection was your favorite Barbie? Whether you opened it or whether it's still in box.
Okay, my favorite one is this one up here. I bought it in New Zealand when I was on holiday.
The flapper one.
Yep, and it's a 1920s flapper, and I'm pretty sure it's actually the most valuable in the collection. She's just got the right amount of beads on it. I've got a thing about beading, and she's just, yeah, there's something about her that I really, really love. Anything that's got my name on it, like Barbie and the Rocker, it's got my name on it. That's pretty cool because of, you know, in America my name is a lot more popular than in Australia. And then of course my original Barbie dolls, so the kissing Barbie, the quick change Barbie, the curly hair Barbie, which, yeah, they're all sentimental favourites, but of the ones that I purchased later in life, that's the one.
The movie came out roughly in like 1986, 1987.
Mm-hmm.
How old would you have been when it came out?
1986, I would have been 14.
So would you have watched it like, because it was a TV special, so you wouldn't have watched
Yeah,
it live?
no, I didn't.
But you have collected the VHS tapes.
Well, how the story would have gone is my name, I got the doll, and I'm pretty sure I've got the Ellen doll as well. And then I would have collected the video. So I would have been going, oh, you know, I would have seen it and gone, yeah, I'll get that. So I didn't do it. I did it one way, not the other, if that makes sense. But no, I didn't watch it when I was a kid. I was 14 by that stage. I had boys. See, I may have even bought it for you, the video, because I don't remember watching it myself. So it might have been a case of I saw it and I went, oh, you know, I'll get that for you. And you're the only one of the family who would have got VHS rather than DVD. Like, after a couple of years, you definitely had DVD because Swan Lake and all those were on DVD. But I may have got it when I was collecting, or I may have bought it for you. I really can't remember. But I don't know that I've ever actually watched the whole thing through.
Yeah, so my mom didn't watch this film as a kid like I thought she did, and that intro to the entire video was a lie. At least I got a good interview about her being a doll collector, especially like collecting dolls as a kid versus collecting dolls as an adult, but she never watched this fucking film and bought the VHS tape for me. So yes, my opening was a lie, and I sort of just kept it because I was way too lazy to fucking change it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I put a lot of work and effort into the researching, into the picking out these fucking things from the garage, into a lot of elements of this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. I really hope it came across, because this became a hyperfixation for me for about a month, and by the time that I'm editing this hyperfixation has sort of like very quickly died. So hope you guys enjoyed it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. What did you think about this review? What did you think about the film itself? If you haven't watched it, you can go source it, it's on YouTube. But if you have seen it, what did you think of the actual film itself? Did you grow up with it? Let me know in the comments down below, and I hope to see you guys in my next video next week. Bye! I'm getting distracted by this gorgeous little cat. Say hello, cat. Okay, now you can go down.